Alright, so now we're going to look at trig functions on the unit circle. This is now going to be the great melding of right triangle trigonometry that you learned in geometry with what you've memorized about the unit circle and kind of bringing everything together. This is like when the skies open and the sun rays go everywhere, the angels are singing. This is just going to be glorious right here. Alright, so we want to come and draw a 30-degree angle. So this is a 30-degree angle, and it's on the unit circle. Remember, the unit circle is a unit circle because the radius is equal to 1. And so we know it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. The radius is 1, so this is R, and this is X, and this is Y. And so we know that the short leg is half of the hypotenuse. So Y is a half. X becomes the square root of 3 times a half, or square root of 3 over 2. And so the ordered pair right here is square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Right? And you guys know that. You now have it memorized. Bam, 30 degrees. Square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. That's the ordered pair, x, y. But that's not just x and y. So, if this is a 90-degree right triangle, right, then that means that this radius is the hypotenuse. Right? And if this is my angle theta, this side right here is the opposite, OPP, and this side here is the adjacent, ADJ. So, cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that means cosine of theta is x over r all the time on a circle. But on the unit circle, where r equals 1, then cosine of theta is just x. So what that tells me is right up here in this ordered pair, the cosine of 30 degrees is equal to the square root of 3 over 2. It's the x value of that ordered pair. That's coming from adjacent over hypotenuse. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Alright, guess where we're going next? The sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse, but the opposite side is y, and the hypotenuse is r. So sine of theta is always going to be y over r in a circle, but in the unit circle, if r is 1, sine of theta is just y. So that means that sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. Bam. So, what you're going to be asked to do next is to be able to give answers to the common trig angle measurements. So if I say cosine 45 degrees, you're going to be able to say square root of 2 over 2 without even blinking, right? Because at 45 degrees, the ordered pair is root 2 over 2 comma root 2 over 2. So the x value is square root of 2 over 2. You know that. Likewise, if you see sine of pi over 4, you already know that sine of pi over 4 is the y value at 45 degrees. That's square root of 2 over 2. So if you've memorized your unit circle, you pretty much already have this down. All you have to remember, cosine is x, sine is y. Done. Oh, but little bit of wrinkle. What about tangent? All right, so let's talk about the tangent of theta. SOHCAHTOA, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Looking at it here, the opposite is y, the adjacent is x. It would be y over x. Which is the same thing, and we showed this the other day, that tangent is sine theta over cosine theta. So let's look at tangent of 30 degrees. Tangent of 30 degrees is going to be 1/2 divided by the square root of 3 over 2, which is going to be 1/2 times 2 over the square root of 3. Simplify your fraction. 2 divided by 2 is 1. It's 1 over the square root of 3. But, oh, we have to rationalize the denominator. We don't want an irrational number in the denominator. So here, we're going to rationalize. And so tangent of 30 degrees is going to be square root of 3 over 3. All right, let's look at the tangent for pi over 4. That's going to be sine over cosine. So it's going to be square root of 2 over 2 divided by square root of 2 over 2. Well, what happens anytime you divide a number by its own self? Provided that number is not 0, any number divided by itself is 1. Now, that's all fine for the numeric part, but now we have to talk about the sign part. And I don't mean sine trig function, S-I-N, I mean sine, S-I-G-N, positive versus negative. So, I'm going to draw me another unit circle over here. And let's think about our signs in our different quadrants. So in quadrant 1, x value is positive, y value is positive, right? So what is that going to mean? That's going to mean cosine of theta is going to be positive, and sine of theta is going to be positive. Tangent of theta, a positive divided by a positive, is going to be positive. So then secant is going to be positive, because if you take a positive number and you just take the reciprocal, 1 over that number, is going to be positive. Cosecant is going to be positive, and cotangent would also be positive, right? The reciprocals are going to have the same sign as their partner there, their reciprocal partner. So in this first quadrant, all 6 trig functions are positive. So when we go to quadrant 2, right, our x values are negative and our y values are positive. So that means the cosine of theta is always going to be negative. Likewise with secant. The sine of theta is your y value, so that's positive. So let's think on tangent. If you do a negative divided by a positive, you're going to get a negative answer, right? So in the second quadrant, only the sine and the cosecant are positive. Alright, down here in quadrant 3, x value is negative, y value is negative. So our cosine theta will be a negative answer. Our sine theta will also be a negative answer. So secant and cosecant are also going to be negatives because they're just the reciprocals. But tangent of theta, so if you take a negative and divide it by a negative, it comes out positive. So in quadrant 3, only the tangent is positive. So over in quadrant 4, the x value is positive, the y value is negative. Cosine theta is your x value, so cosine theta is going to be positive. Sine theta is your y value, so sine is going to be negative. Tangent of theta is sine divided by cosine. So a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So only the cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant. So now if we go around counterclockwise, and there's a little acronym, which it's not a true statement, but all students take calculus. So that's just telling you in the first quadrant, all the trig functions are positive. Second quadrant, only sine and cosecant are positive. Third quadrant, only tangent and cotangent are positive. Fourth quadrant, only cosine and secant are positive. You could come up with your own acronym using ASTC if you like. But that's an idea about helping you know the positives and the negatives. So for example, if I want the tangent, right, of this is pi, so I'm thinking like this. This is 4 pi over 4. So down here this is 5 pi over 4. And I know that's square root 2 over 2 and square root 2 over 2. So tangent is going to be a form of 1. But my question is it going to be positive or negative 1? So it's down here in the third quadrant. That's going to be 1. Versus if I wanted to do the tangent of 7 pi over 4, which is over here in the fourth quadrant, that's going to be negative 1. Because it's going to be square root of 2 over 2 divided by negative square root of 2 over 2. So it's going to be negative 1.